Regardless of how you feel, you gotta look up. You gotta get up. And don't ever give up. Follow your heart and you will never lose. That's my motto. So, let's continue what we set out to do, shall we? Chapter 4, What to Think, from our lovely book, The Science of Being Well, written by Wallace D. Wattles. What to think. In order to sever all mental relations with disease, you must enter into mental relations with health, making the process positive, not negative, one of assumption, not of rejection. You are to receive or appropriate health, rather than object or deny disease. Denying disease accomplishes next to nothing. It does little good to cast out the devil, and leave the house vacant, for he will presently return with others worse than himself. When you enter into full and constant mental relations with health, you must of necessity cease all relationship with disease. The first step in the science of being well, then, is to enter into complete thought connection with health, obtaining that consciousness of health. That is what he was saying when he is saying the first step in the science of being well, then, is to enter into complete thought connection with health. And thought and consciousness is nothing but one. Remember, thought is a spiritual activity. Learning it in all of these lovely books, and how thought is energy. The best way to do this is to form a mental image, or picture of yourself of being well, imagining a perfectly strong and healthy body, and to spend sufficient time in contemplating this image to make it your habitual thought of yourself. This is not so easy as it sounds. It necessitates and the taking of considerable time for meditation, and not all persons have the imaging faculty well enough developed to form a distinct mental picture of themselves in a perfect or idealized body. It is much easier, as in, quote, the science of getting rich, end quote, to form a mental image of the things one wants to have, for we have seen that these things or their counterparts, and know how they look. We can picture them very easily from memory. But if we have never seen ourselves in a perfect body, a clear mental image is hard to form. It is not necessary or essential, however, to have a clear mental image of yourself as you wish to be. It is only essential to form a conception of perfect health, and to relate yourself with it. To form a conception, to form the idea of what it would be like to have perfect health for yourself, especially if you're someone who has never had it before. All you could do is go from the imagination of it from here, forming the conception, what you think it would feel like if you had it for yourself. And I gotta tell you, for somebody who experienced it personally, there's no better feeling than feeling good about yourself. No better feeling than having the physique that you want. There really is no better feeling than knowing that you are advancing, becoming more and more of the best version of yourself every single day. And it starts with taking action every day. Trust me. That's what we've been learning. This conception of health is not a mental picture of a particular thing. It is an understanding of health, and carries with it the idea of perfect functioning in every part and organ. You may try to picture yourself as perfect in physique. That helps, and you must think of yourself as doing everything in the manner of a perfectly strong and healthy person. You can picture yourself as walking down the street with an erect body and a vigorous stride. You can picture yourself as doing your day's work easily and with surplus vigor, never tired or weak. You can picture in your mind how all things would be done by a person full of health and power, and you can make yourself the central figure in the picture, doing things in just that way. Now remember, we learned that Since there is one conscious substance that permeates all space, and that this consciousness is the Spirit of God, and that this consciousness has embodied itself within all, that this consciousness is a thinking substance, and that we as people are an embodiment of this infinite source, and that we as humans are our own center of thinking intelligence, and we as humans can form our own thoughts and visualize and think in our own possible ways, an infinite amount of ways, that whatever thoughts we think that we are sending out, we are shooting our roots into this all mind, this energy, and at the same time we are embodying what it is that we are envisioning ourselves. So not only are we taking the image and taking the form ourselves of whatever it is that we are thinking, but we are also setting things in motion and giving God something to work with as we work with Him and He works with us. The two halves, it always takes two. There really is nothing you can't do. Never think of the ways in which weak or sickly people do things. Always think of the way strong people do things. Spend your leisure time in thinking about the strong way, until you have a good conception of it. And always think of yourself in connection with the strong way of doing things. This is what I mean by having a conception of health. A conception of health. Thinking of doing things in a strong way. In order to establish perfect functioning in every part, man does not have to study anatomy or physiology so that he can form a mental image of each separate organ and address himself to it. He does not have to treat his liver, his kidneys, his stomach, or his heart. There is one principle of health in man which has control over all the involuntary functions of his life, and the thought of perfect health impressed upon this principle will reach each part of an organ. Man's liver is not controlled by a liver principle, his stomach by a digestive principle, and so on. The principle of health is one. The less you go into the detailed study of physiology, the better for you. Our knowledge of this science is very imperfect, and leads to imperfect thought. Imperfect thought causes imperfect functioning, which is disease. Let me illustrate. Until quite recently, physiology fixed 10 days in the extreme limit of man's endurance without food. It is considered that only in exceptional cases he could survive a longer fast. So the impression became universally disseminated that one who was deprived of food must die in from 5 to 10 days. The numbers of people, when cut off from the food by shipwreck, accident, or famine, did die within this period, but the performances of Dr. Tanner, the 40-day faster, the writings of Dr. Dewey and others on the fasting cure, together with the experiments of numberless people who have fasted from 40 to 60 days, have shown that man's ability to live without food is vastly greater than that has been supposed. Any person properly educated can fast from 20 to 40 days with little loss in weight, and often with no apparent loss of strength at all. The people who starved to death in 10 days or less did so because they believed that death was inevitable. An erroneous physiology had given them the wrong idea, the wrong thought about themselves. When man is deprived of food, he will die within from 10 to 15 days, 10 to 50 days, according to the way he has been taught, or in other words, according to the way he thinks about it. So you see that an erroneous physiology can work every mischievous results. No science of being well can be founded on current physiology. It is not sufficiently exact in its knowledge. With all of its pretensions, comparatively little is really known to the interior workings and processes of the body. It is not known just how food is digested. It is not known just what part of food plays, if any, in the generation of force. It is not known exactly what the liver, spleen, and pancreas are for, or what part their secretions play in the chemistry of assimilation. On all these and most other points we theorize, but we do not really know. When man begins to study physiology, he enters a domain of theory and disputation. He comes among conflicting opinions, and he is bound to form mistaken ideas concerning himself. These mistaken ideas lead to the thinking of wrong thoughts, and this leads to perverted functionings and disease. All that the most perfect knowledge in physiology could do for man would be to enable him to think only thoughts of perfect health, and to eat, drink, breathe, and sleep in a perfectly healthy way, and this, as we shall show, he can do without studying physiology at all. This, for the most part, is true of all hygiene. There are certain fundamental propositions which we should know, and these will be explained in later chapters. But aside from these propositions, ignore physiology and hygiene. They tend to fill your mind with thoughts of imperfect conditions, and these thoughts will produce the imperfect conditions in your own body. You cannot study any science which recognizes disease if you are to think nothing but health. Drop all investigation as to your present condition, its causes or possible results, and set yourself to the work of forming a conception of health. Thinking about health and the possibilities of health, of the work that may be done and the pleasures that may be enjoyed in the condition of perfect health. Then make this conception your guide in thinking of yourself. Refuse to entertain for an instant any thought of yourself which is not in harmony with it. When any idea of disease or imperfect functioning enters your mind, cast it out instantly by calling up a thought which is in harmony with the conception of health. Think of yourself at all times as realizing this conception, as being a strong and perfectly healthy personage, and do not harbor a contrary thought. Know that as you think of yourself in unity with this conception, the original substance which permeates and fills the tissues of your body is taking form according to the thought. And know that this intelligent substance or mind stuff will cause function to be performed in such a way that your body will be rebuilt with perfect healthy cells. The intelligent substance. I want to talk a little bit about what this paragraph had just said. Okay, know yourself in unity with this conception. Feel it to be true that you are moving into this idea, this vision that you have of yourself with perfect health. We learned in the Master Key system, Charles F. Hanoy, he goes into saying how the brain and cerebral spinal are the organs of the conscious mind, and that the sympathetic nervous system in this the solar plexi is the organ of the subconscious mind. Okay, this is the process of how the body continually creates and recreates itself, because whatever thoughts that you accept as reality, it is picking up by the sympathetic nerves, and it goes out to being created by your outside. You move on to creating that conception in your outer world, and doing things in accordance with your vision of your conception of what is going on in that. Okay. We learn in my NASM class for fitness training also that the sympathetic nervous system is the instinctual part as well. That it is the sympathetic nervous system. Say, for example, you touch something hot. The sympathetic nervous system is what tells your hand to move before you consciously realize that the object is hot. It just happens on instinct. You pull it back by itself. It's something that it does itself. Okay? And also it is something that you, by whatever thoughts you entertain and accept as true, it is also picked up by this sympathetic nervous system, and you go out to creating in your outer world. It's that is how he said that we are constantly creating and recreating ourselves. The intelligent substance from which all things are made permeates and penetrates all things, and so it is in and through your body. It moves according to its thoughts, and so if you hold only the thoughts of perfectly healthy functions, it will cause the movements of perfectly healthy functions within you. As within, so without. As above, so below. That is from an ancient tablet, Hermes Trismegistus. Hold with persistence to the thought of perfect health in relation to yourself. Do not permit yourself to think in any other way. Hold this thought with perfect faith that it is a fact, the truth. It is the truth so far as your mental body is concerned. You have a mind body and a physical body. The mind body takes form just as you think of yourself, and any thought which you hold continuously is made visible by the transformation of the physical body into its image. Implanting the thought of perfect functioning in the mind body will, in due time, cause perfect functionings in the physical body. Wow. That was really in the man's mind space. His mind space. All his mind. The universe is mental. God is mental. God is intelligence. He works with the mind. The Bible said it is with the mind that we serve the Lord. It is with the mind that we serve the Lord. And it is the body that serves the mind. It is the mind that serves the Lord. Spirit, mind, and body. We are all spiritual beings that have a mind, and we are inhabiting this body. You are in control. We are the way. We are the truth. We are the life. There is only one life, one principle, one mind, one body, one spirit, one whole. The transformation of the physical body into the image of the ideal held in the mind body is not accomplished instantaneously. We cannot transfigure our physical bodies as at will as Jesus did. In the creation and recreation of forms, substance moves along the fixed lines of growth it has established, and the impression upon it in the health causes the healthy body to be built cell by cell. Holding only thoughts of perfect health will ultimately cause perfect functioning, and perfect functioning will in due time produce a perfectly healthy body. It may be as well to condense this chapter into a syllabus. Your physical body is permeated and filled with an intelligent substance, which forms a body of mind stuff. This mind stuff controls the functioning of your physical body. A thought of disease or of imperfect function impressed upon the mind stuff will cause disease of imperfect functioning in the physical body. If you are diseased, it is because wrong thoughts have made impressions on this mind stuff. You may have been either your own thoughts or those of your parents. We begin life with many subconscious impressions, both right and wrong, but the natural tendency of all mind is towards health, and if no thoughts are held in the conscious mind save those of health, all internal functioning will come to be performed in a perfectly healthy manner. The power of nature within you is sufficient to overcome all hereditary impressions, and if you will learn to control your thoughts so that you shall think only those of health, and if you will perform the voluntary functions of life in a perfectly healthy way, you can certainly be well. Mind stuff. Mind stuff. Your mind has fingers. I know I said this a while ago in another video. Thought is energy. Whatever thoughts you are concentrating on a specific thing, your mind, this mind stuff, your fingers, your mental fingers, your roots are moving, they're stretching out, they're reaching out towards that thing you are focusing on. That is how you're giving it life. You're creating it. I challenge you to think of something, anything. Think of something, whatever you want. Experiment. Let's put this into experiment. Let's practice it. Let's Challenge it. Mind stuff. Whatever thoughts you think are being put into this mind stuff, and this mind stuff is surrounding you, your mind body, your mind space. And whatever's going on in your mind space, your physical being embodies, it takes up, and it acts it out in the physical world. All is mind. It is our minds that they are after. It is our minds that they are after. They're trying to control this thing in here. But we will not be controlled. Because we were created in God's image. And God has given you His mind. He has given you His spirit. And you have been embodied in this creature that God has so brought up to advancement, so He can live as a God and manifest Himself as a God, where He can actually understand Himself, because it is through us that this spirit is able to contemplate itself, to learn about itself, from an individual spark of consciousness. That is the end of chapter 4. If you made it to the end of this video with me, thank you for watching. We have some contemplating to do. And I'll see you in the next